Now we have the door mounted. We have a couple of 7/16 shims to keep it away from the edge of the chassis. Also, we left ourselves a 1/4-inch gap down through for the gasket we will use to retain the heat between the door and the oven itself. Plan is to use this standard grill or furnace gasket, and because we have a 3/8 inch gasket kit, we're going to leave this 1/4-inch space so that we don't mash our gasket. Plan next is to put some rubber 1/4-inch bumpers here on the corners so that we can shut the door and snug it up against that gasket. To make sure that we have the ability to level the oven at any given time, we mounted some feet. These particular feet are elevator bolts with 2-inch 5/16 standoff. Since we got the door mounted and our 1/4-inch gap we want to maintain and we don't want to crush our gasket, we put in a couple of 1/4-inch spacers at the top and bottom, which we glued in and are now drying with the vise. Since we have everything all viced up, we clamped. Thanks. We took this opportunity to go ahead and mount the door latch, which we may put another one at the bottom or we may not, just because of the way the 2x4 is bent. So that should be able to keep the door secure and keep the gasket sealed. Okay, moving right along, we have finished the construction of the door. We sprayed high temperature Rust-Oleum across the sheet metal to help prevent rust, and then we installed 3/8 inch high temperature grill or furnace gasket. Interestingly enough, this gasket came with some of the worst glue we've ever seen in our lives, and so we ended up sinking screws in very lightly and fluffing up the gasket around the screw so that the gasket itself still puffed out above, but the gasket was anchored, and we put a bunch of glue on it, but it sticks fine now. Had we to do it over again, though, we would definitely use some type of high temperature silicone. So that worked out pretty good. Now the 1/4-inch gap we left between the door and the chassis works out just perfectly. You can see the spacers we put in here to make sure that the door never goes in past the 1/4-inch mark too. It's very snug, works good. Now, over here you see our thermocouple wire. We attach that to a Super China eBay digital temperature controller, and mounted that on the side there with a little quickie chassis. Plug that in there. You can see that that's then connected to a relay and a outlet and switch. The switch controls only the outlets. The temperature controller runs independently once that's plugged in on its own. So then the hot plate, which is down below, will run off of the outlets, and then we have a manual shut off for that. So you can see that it's about 62 degrees in there, and our set value at the moment is 200. So then this light here indicates that it's actually supplying current to the relay, the red light there. Don't worry, this is all perfectly up to code. So you can see the hot plate now is off. If I reach up here and flip on the switch, we have juice. So the next step is going to be to actually test this thing out and see how fast it takes to get the get up to 200 or 300 degrees.